Stardate DS9. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a kind of smart, kind of funny podcast covering new and classic Trek. I'm your captain, ready with some Latinum Mariah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes. Rule of acquisition 190. Pay your captain.
And Paul Satachet. I forgot to get a pun, so I apologize.
You're catching up, Paul. You're catching up.
Oh no. I feel like you guys are like true Ferengi, and I'm like Nog, with my lobes are just not big enough, and I don't have the lobes. I don't have the lobes.
It's okay. The lobes will come. Tonight, we are covering the 6th episode of the 3rd season of Lower Decks. Hear all, trust nothing, aka the 190th rule of the Ferengi. But first, Paul, welcome to the podcast. It's your first time on. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you, your history with Star Trek, some fond Trek memories. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me, of course. Let's see. I'm Paul. I started watching Star Trek. I guess it's reruns of TOS. That's when, so I'm a Spock, Kirk, McCoy, kind of like that. That's my intro. And then I've basically, it was before social media. So I was just basically a Star Trek fan in my house by myself, so I'm in the secluded shuttlecraft of a fandom. And so I just gone and I kind of memorized every episode ish. One of my favorite memories is I met my wife and we made out to episode of Voyager.
Classic.
So yeah,
that is a Star Trek fan.
It was really weird too, because the move that I made was basically, hey, the rerun of Voyager at midnight, it's gonna be on soon, so if we don't get to your place, you won't be able to watch it. And that was the entree, and smooth. I know.
Very.
It worked.
It worked.
It was smooth.
That's right.
It absolutely was smooth because it worked.
Yeah, 21 years later.
Would you say then that Voyager is your favorite Trek, or what's your top Trek shows in your heart of hearts?
I think my heart of hearts is DS9. Not to jump ahead, but today's today's episode, when the music was coming on, I was going I don't actually cry on the outside, but on the inside, I think I'm happy crying. when the music was coming on, I was going oh wow, this is really moving to me. But I think it goes DS9, Next Gen, and it might be Strange New World, in that order as far as my.
I don't understand this, Paul. Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You made out with a woman.
With a woman, yes.
To Voyager.
That's right. A
real person, a willing live person.
That's right.
To Voyager, and it's at best 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I
don't understand.
Yeah, I look back at you say it now, and I see it. I see. Oh my God, maybe my priorities are messed up.
I'm just. What it tells me is your love for DS9 is it. It speaks to me. I'm like, wow, he really cares about these shows. He really likes this show, because I think for most Trek fans, that would immediately make them that their best, the favorite show ever in the history of television.
Oh, my wife's just okay.
I understand. Okay. No, that's great.
All right. Fun times. I'm excited for you to join us, Paul. We're going to jump into a bit of this episode. But first, just a reminder, you can listen to this episode on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. All of the links and more are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you are loving all this content and you would like some more, you can join us at patreon.com/StarTrekPod. And for just $2 per episode, you get to join us in our exclusive Slack channel where there are watch-alongs happening. There's lots of chit-chat. Today, everyone was sharing their brand new little Lower Decks avatars. It was a good time. So definitely come over and join us there if you can. Clyde, how else can listeners interact with us tonight here on YouTube?
If you happen to be watching us live, wherever you are watching, and you want to leave us a comment, you want us to ask us a question, then just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we'll take a listen. And in a short moment, we will ask a very important question. You'll know what it is when it comes, and just type capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat, and we'll take a look at yours.
Indeed. All right. I think it's time we dive into the salon and revisit this tacky Cardassian fascist eyesore with Here All Trust Nothing, which was directed by Phil Mark Saga Draka and written by Grace Parajani. And I think it might be time for some of those hot freaks.
Hot freaks!
Oh yeah.
So just so you know, like, and this is maybe sharing too much too soon, but like
never.
So throughout, like, literally until your pod, which is a long time, like, I always in my brain I said it's Jonathan Frakes, and even when it said Jonathan Frakes, I translated it to Franks, and only after like I go, oh, it is Frakes.
Hot Frakes.
Oh wow! That you know, like, that was anyway. That neither here nor there. I apologize, but that was a hot freak for you.
That is a hot freak about you, Paul. Okay, Clyde, what was your hot freak about this episode? Give me some tasty thoughts.
Listen, I've never claimed to say DS9 was my favorite. Look, Paul, you're new, so everyone else has heard me say this.
Yeah.
So everybody else was like, I know what he's gonna say. I love a ship, right? And the runabout is not exactly what I call a ship. I'm a big fan of space operas and battles and ships. I want to see ships do ship-like stuff. And DS9 is a station that can move, but largely just stations. So that being said, I absolutely love this episode, and it was great. Like, when they showed Quark, and I was thinking, and the same thing with Kira, when they showed Quark, I was like, are they gonna recast the voice, or is this gonna be the voice? And I was waiting, and it was like, yes. And when I saw Kira, they had her walking around, not saying anything, and then boom, I was like, yes. So there was a lot of nostalgia, a lot of emotion that came back. It felt like one of the best throwbacks that Lower Decks has ever done. It wasn't just a casual mention. They really integrated the cast, and this is different from like kind of the stuff they've done before, where it was just like right at the end or just for a moment. This felt like we were literally on DS9, and so I love that. I love Tendi. Like, this was maybe my favorite Tendi moment of the series. And you know, and again, we're getting more of Mariner, kind of three-dimensional. Now we're seeing her kind of in the relationship, doing the things that we all do, trying to impress the friends. And so by and large, I thought this was a great episode. Yeah, high marks for me.
Paul, what were your thoughts?
DS9 is my favorite, though I do love ships. I do love ships. And like when basically the Cerritos was admiring the station in awe, and the music was playing again, like that part of me that loves, you know, DS9 was like happy crying inside. I was going like, oh my god, this is so that it was that part of me. I was going like, wow, I can't believe that, like, you know, that is such a core of my Star Trek fandom. Like, you know, this bit, like, it was that part was pretty amazing. I thought this is the best episode of the season, you know, and it could be biased because I am a big DS9 fan. Even when, like, you know, the part that I love, like the little details that were great, like, you know, when Boimler was double downing on the what you call it, on the double wheel, but but like the real bet is like triple over, like in the it goes triple double, what, you know, double. You know, I was like that's right, they did the research. Mm-hmm. So I just loved it.
Yeah, truly, I had a really good time with this episode too. I almost wanted them to do like the full credits song as they like. I was like, "Ooh, you could have kept." I know why you cut this off because you have to meet a time constraint. But I was like, I wish there was an extended cut where it's just them circling like for the entirety of the Deep Space Nine theme song because I think that would be hilarious and amazing.
Or every time they cut out to the Cerritos, it's still circling.
Yes, it's still circling. But yeah, my hot freak is similar to all of y'all's. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was so much fun. It is the best of Lower Decks in that it is giving you nostalgia, but at the same time bringing something fresh and new. You're still getting to see characters that you love while also getting to hang out with our brand new crew that we have and getting to learn more about them. I agree, Clyde. I thought this was such a fun Tendi episode. I've been
so good.
Loving learning more about her, and I thought Mesk was a really funny counterpart to her. And again, we get kind of this morality bow at the end of all of this, right? That you should just be yourself, what seems to be like a continuing message throughout this whole season. So I really enjoyed it.
Choopy says her hot freak is she loves Tendi. She says, she quoted, "I'm pirating. Let's go."
Yes. I need that on like a shirt or like a bumper sticker. That's definitely. Just like, out of the way, I'm pirating. And unfortunately, guys, I can't see our comments on our end, but I can see them on YouTube. So we're going to have to just read them. We can't bring them up on screen. So apologies for that. We'll try to get that fixed for next time. Let's see. Hot freight from Kuhn. All hail the Cardassian imperialist Islor. I'm so glad that DS9 is getting its due. Michael L. Hot Freak. I like how the goodwill gifts from the Alpha Quadrant are all booze. Very classic Alpha Quadrant. Michael L. also had this was a long-awaited love letter to DS9, and it was awesome. Kira Neres is back, and she has Cisco's baseball. So good.
Yeah. Tight.
That was a look. I think we spent way too much time last week talking about what could convince Avery Brooks to come back. That was a nice touch to bring in Kira in that office and to reference the baseball. It was that felt like a really nice touch.
So to start back, we'll wind it back. We'll try to go through in a sort of orderly fashion, but us, we'll jump around a bit. In the cold open, we get the Cerritos via the captain's log from Captain Freeman. They're bringing said booze to the Karema. Am I saying that right? Karema. For the meeting at the DS9 to reopen trade agreements in the Gamma Quadrant. They were members of the Dominion, if we want to remember back to DS9. I wanted to ask y'all, when you first saw the station and we get that kind of moment and then we cut to the credits, right? Like my mind started immediately going to, who are we going to see on the station? So if you could have picked your ideal cameos in this episode, who would they have been?
Paul? I mean, I've got a couple because I thought about it. It was so I'll say this: the first moment, I didn't think we would see anyone. I thought we'd hear about people, but I didn't know that we'd still see people. And then when I thought, I saw Kira, I was like, well, who are we gonna see, right? So there was this thought of, would we see, the Worfs, the Miles O'Briens, I'd want to see Jadzia, but I'd end up with Ezri. and I hate to say it, Ezri's all right, just knows Jadzia. So I'd say ultimately I was hoping for like Worf and then Miles. Like it was so nice to see Miles on multiple Star Trek franchises. I thought it'd been nice to see him on this one too.
We did get a reference to him in the beginning of the episode, or at least his mirror version.
Smiley,
yes.
Smiley.
I think like right now, I think at least from what I remember, Miles is in Starfleet Academy teaching. Worf is an ambassador. The people who are on Deep Space Nine are Kira, Julian, and Ezri. I think those are the people who are
and Quark.
And Quark, yes, canonically there. That said, like what I was hoping for was like a quick, like ethereal, like prophet like emissary, like Cisco, like just one quick blip, supernatural Cisco. I was hoping that would happen, but like that was going to be tough. Cisco's in the wormhole, right?
Yes. And I know at Star Trek Day, and I think I brought this up last week too, because everyone always asks, like, what is it going to take to get Avery Brooks back on Star Trek? And
like
apparently
every podcast, yes.
Every podcast, everyone asks. And I think it was even Alex Kurtzman who might have addressed it. I can't even remember it. It was like someone very official who was just like, the offer has been made, but we have not received a yes. So it's just like, we have tried. We promise we have tried. It is now out of their hands. But I agree. It would have been really fun to see. I did like the baseball, though. I thought that was a nice way for them to bring him in. I got so excited seeing Kira on my screen again. I literally did like a weird, I don't even know what I did. I did like an excited hands movement gesture to the point where I literally just rewind and started the episode from the beginning again. Cause I was like, I'm so excited. I need to like absorb all of these details. Cause I did not know we were going to get this particular episode, and it made me so happy. And I think it's a really smart way for them to get to pay homage to a lot of these legacy characters, because it's like they're just voice acting. It doesn't matter if they've aged. They get to kind of embody these characters again. It's probably a lot easier for them to record these lines in their closets than to have to come and get into all of the makeup, especially for Armin, for Quark, because that would be quite a lot, I'm sure, at this point. But I was impressed with the way his vocal performance was. I wonder if they sent him any kind of like mouthpiece to kind of figure out a way for it to sort of match the way he sounded when he was in full prosthetics. What did y'all think of their vocal performances, Nana and Armin?
I thought it was fine. I didn't notice. I guess I wasn't looking for it. I was still the part of my brain was still screaming, "Yay, yay, yay!" So I didn't really.
The excitement overtook.
Yeah, there was a whole discussion about this in the Slack channel on the spoilers, on the spoilers board earlier. Just really kind of discussing, is it really them? It sounds like the voices sound just slightly different. But everybody was like, it's absolutely them, because they were, and people were looking for their names in the credits. And so I thought, for me, that was a home run. I thought they did an incredible job. It's been a long time, and yet they've come back to just embody these characters, and enough that for me, it felt so real. And I think this series has done this really well. When we think about kind of any of the other cameos that we've had, this felt better than a cameo, though. This
100%. That's exactly
felt more than that.
Yeah, I mean, they were fully fleshed out characters and like main characters of this episode, which is definitely a little bit different from a typical Lower Decks episode, while our like main cast definitely, at least Tendi and Rutherford, sort of played bigger parts in the movement of the plot. I think this was some of the most we've seen of upper deckers, if you will, this season. So it was definitely a little bit heavier, I think, on that side of the plot. I saw it from Michael L. I'm trying to find it. He asked about the Vancouver and how it got rerouted. Oh, here it is. So the Vancouver is rerouted to the Hesperga system. What the hell is a brown hole? And this actually brings up a big question I had when I rewatched this episode is, yes, a brown hole actually doesn't exist. And so I'm wondering if this is the start of like the back half of our season of like what's actually going on with the Vancouver. We've got this shady stuff happen to Rutherford. Is this somehow all connected? Because we've sort of been bringing up these smaller plot points. And I'm wondering if this is going to tie together in some way.
I think Commander Freeman, or not, Captain Freeman actually said that's not even a real thing.
Yeah, that's
it's true. So, there's black holes and there's brown stars or something like that.
Brown
dwarfs, yes, which is a type of star, planet.
I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see, to your point, like what's the backstory. Like even last season, right? We got this whole intrigue, this, I'll call it a C plot with the Packlids. We haven't really gotten too much of that this year, and I think now we're probably starting to get there. So it'll be interesting to see how that fleshes out. And look, I love the fact that at the very end of the episode, Kira came over and was like, Mariner is like a galactic norm, right? Like
Yes.
everywhere she walks in, it's like Norm, it's like
Mariner.
Mariner, like everybody knows. Oh, look at that.
Oh, look, the chat finally came back. Huzzah.
Huzzah!
Yes, I know it's going to be. I actually saw an article. Apparently, when the script came out, Tawny Newsome, originally Mariner, was not supposed to have that ending scene on DS9, but she is such a big DS9 fan that she just like bugged Mike McMahon to rewrite the ending so she could get a little scene on the station, because she's like, I know Mariner is not a DS9 fan, but I am, and I need to be on this station.
Love it. Look at that flex. What a flex.
It's like reason 275 that Tawny Newsome is the best. Got it.
Yes. We love a fan who's making the show itself.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So our kind of main Lower Decks plot point this episode is Tendi and Rutherford. They're fan Star Trekking around DS9, and then they run into an additional Orion Mesk, who is voiced by Adam Paley. And I feel like he shows up and gets really into Tendi's head about like fitting into stereotypes. And her trying to distance this part of her, which felt kind of reminiscent to last week. At least I thought last week's episode with Rutherford, who also had to sort of face a past version of himself, right, and decide what he wanted to do moving forward. What did you think of Mesk and Tendi's interactions?
I think for me, I loved it. You know, the thing that's so great about Lower Decks is that they do the thing that I feel like no other series can do, and that's poke at, reveal, and discuss the things that are a little bit, I don't want to say concerning, but need to be discussed about Star Trek, right? And kind of this future that we look to, we aspire to be. And that's this idea that the Federation is this great thing. And often what we see is that people are fitting into this culture. And what Lower Decks is kind of poking at with last week's episode, this week's episode, and I think also with Mariner as well, is this idea of I've got to hide part of myself, change part of myself to fit in, and I'm on this journey of identity to be the Federation. And so the idea that Tendi would want to hide her pirate Orion past because of all of the stereotypes that people would think about in terms of Orions, versus someone who is pretending, kind of posing, and leaning
Orion.
Yeah, like leaning into all of the stereotypes because they lack identity. It feels very authentic to me of something that would actually has happened kind of in my life. It's like
mine too. I was gonna say the same thing. Like in some ways, it's the most like what was the best way to say it? Like, it's a very, you could make a whole like a drama about that, right? Like, you know, like they do it in a very light and fun way, but the experience is real. Like, you know, where, you know, like you're trying to fit in and someone wants you to act a different way, versus and sometimes you're the other way, where, you know, like, oh, this person doesn't want to deal with you, but like they're the only person that you have a connection with, you know, whether it be just, you know, culturally or not, and you're just trying to make a connection. Like, you can see that the Ryan dude, he just wanted a connection, right? He wanted to find that the person that he could really be, and you know, basically, he was a loner. He was alone, and it was done in a very great way, and I thought that was like so emotionally authentic. That's the best word, Clyde. You had it, like, authentic.
Well, and I think what's interesting is that when you think about Trek, one of the things I love about Trek is that there's a name for us, right? That, like, there's not a name for people who are really into other things, really. I mean, you got a couple, but we're Trekkies. And there's something about when you find your people. And I think when you're going on this journey of identity, you can look at and go, well, I'm looking for people who look like me, who are from the same place than I am. But there's something about Trekkies that when you get together where you go, I think I found my people. And I think we see a little bit of that here, where he is trying to, fit in, he's like, oh, there's someone who looks like me. I've got to pretend to be this person. And the whole thing about Star Trek and the Federation is you found your people not because of where you're from, but because of this call to mission, right? That you're serving this greater mission to explore, areas of the galaxy that haven't been explored before. The Cerritos to, come in and sweep up after the A-Team. So.
Yeah, I liked that we eventually see Tendi sort of, I don't know if it's embrace, but use the lessons that she's learned from a part of like her cultural background that she does not always like to connect with, but ended up being useful, right? And I think it kind of connects back to the idea of like a lot of times the things that people think of other folks' cultures aren't necessarily like quote unquote like bad. They're just like different, and if applied in different ways, I think people would have different viewpoints around it, right? So like, because Tendi had good intentions and used all of the pirate skills to get what needed to be done, right?
There are things that I want to say, but I'm scared that I will get my black card taken away from me if I reveal too much.
I think you can only do that for yourself, Clyde.
Well, no, it's the whole culture. They'll be like, whew, it will get revoked. And I'll be like, well, it's not in my wallet anymore.
It's not like Capital One.
No,
what's in your wallet?
there is a council.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'll tread lightly. But what I think about, in the African American culture, we talk about code switching all the time, right? That when you're in a place, being able to switch one thing, and it feels like there's this whole diaspora, this whole culture that you've got behind you that you don't, in certain places, you don't bring to the forefront. And then there are these moments where it comes out. Sometimes it's useful, right? And you'll see someone, and it happens to me every day. You'll see someone and you'll catch someone's eyes, and it's just like, hey, I see you, right? There's a nod, there's something that happens. And there's these moments where it's useful, where it's like, you're at a concert and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on and you don't know what's happening. And it's like, oh, well, I see somebody, and you're like, hey man, like, what's happening? It's like, yeah, man, the band's not here. Right. We don't know where they are. You're like, all right. And so there are these moments where this culture that you have becomes useful that you don't always bring to the fore, depending on the places that you're in. And so when Tendi was like, there's some things about me you don't know. Right. Right. Like,
I think that's,
yeah.
I think you've done a great job of like coming to that line without getting your card revoked. Like, you good job.
I mean, listen. I say it like this. Most people in my life know me from a bunch of different places. And what they don't know is that I was born on the south side of Chicago in a not so nice part. So like Tendi, I'm not about to jump across, the room and pull somebody's gold tooth out, but there's some things about me that could be useful in a pinch.
Good to know, Clyde.
I love it.
I got layers.
Yeah, like layers. A parfait.
Yes. Thank you for not saying onion. I appreciate that, Paul.
We got parfaits all the way around. Our other kind of bigger plot point with our lower deckers this episode is between Jennifer and Mariner, where Mariner, Jennifer, I watched twice to make sure. Jennifer comes out of Mariner's bunk. So they were definitely hanging out together.
Was that not obvious?
The first time I thought it was like the next bunk over, and then I rewatched it and I was like, oh no, that's the same bunk Mariner got out of.
But imagine, like, there
that's
you
a small
are.
Bunk.
Yeah, it's a small bunk, and you're both in uniform.
Just like taking a little nap in your uniform.
It's just odd, right? Like,
sometimes you need a cuddle.
But if Yeah, if your bed's in the hallway, like it's already odd.
I mean, yeah, you're young, you're in love, you're in Starfleet, you're gonna cuddle in your uniform in
It's
your
a
bunk
dorm.
hallway.
Yes.
Yeah. In your hallway bunk, it's gonna happen. But Mariner is finally going to meet Jennifer's, aka Jenny's friends, much to her dismay, at this salon where everyone is it felt like walking into one of those LA crystal shops where someone's telling you to just like whatever one is speaking to you is the one that you should purchase. There's like that weird etherealness to it, and I was like, oh, I'm glad astrology bitches still exist in Starfleet.
It's funny you say,
Right.
because it reminded me of like I was in Austin last week, and I feel like I was going through shops and everything had that vibe of like
Yes.
So I was going like, oh wow, this is a thing.
Mariah, I had just taken a drink of water.
You're
and
welcome.
I was thinking, if I spit this all over my laptop, I'm sending you the bill.
Get that Apple Care.
Yeah. No, but you're dead on right. Like I was just like, I was shocked when I saw it, and I was like, I want this to be so just a joke, but it's not. Like, these places actually exist. These people do. And I'm in LA, and I do the kid drop off every morning, and you'll hear things. So you'll hear parents talking. And I was walking behind some, because I heard some locals call it, it's the parent march, right? So you drop your kids off, and then you're walking back to your car, to your house or whatever. And so it's a bunch of parents walking. I'm standing behind a bunch of parents, and they're just talking. It's like, yeah, the energy in that place was just really, really off. And someone was like, I have some crystals for that. And I was just like, and so then I watched this episode, and I was like, it's so real. Like that's so real.
Like when they are yelling at her to not blow out the candles because of their intentions, I died laughing. I was like, y'all are Starfleet people, and you're still like, don't blow out my intentions candle as we run out of oxygen.
But you know what? Mariner's response was the best response ever. And that was to face them.
I know. I kind of wanted like a Mariner verbal takedown because it felt like it would have been so good. But I also am just like, she was so done. And she's like, I need them all to just be quiet. I need everyone quiet at this point. I'm done. But mostly I'm concerned about Mariner and Jennifer, because if those are the people Jennifer is hanging out with and has managed to stay with as friends.
I didn't want to say it. It wasn't my place to say.
Thank you, Mariah.
I was like,
thinking it, but I'm not saying it.
That better be the best lay of your life, Mariner, for you to put up with these friends. Like,
okay, for the record, I told Paul before we joined that you can best believe at some point we'd have an inappropriate conversation.
Yeah, that's right. You did.
It's here.
We made it.
We've made it. No,
although the Kobayashi maroon was
right.
Beautiful.
You can't dance it wrong.
Can't dance it wrong.
Or right. You can't dance it right.
If I'm ever dancing and someone's like, what is happening? I'm going to be like, it's the Kobayashi maroon.
Oh my goodness. I did have that. I was like, Mariner, if these are her friends, I know she likes you, but if these are her friends, run away.
Well, she was also like, I know my friends are terrible. I was looking forward to you basically being mean to them.
That's not better.
It's not better. You're right, Paul. Better. It's not better.
Like I have a saying that I always use. I go like, the person you pick tells me more about you than you do. And like, and so like, these are the friends that Jenny picked, and I'm going like, oh my God, they're just like such cookie cutout sorority, weaponized yoga type people. So like, I was like, oh, it's not gonna last. It's not gonna last.
Either Jennifer's gonna have to find some new friends and like get melded into our lower deckers, or I don't think it's gonna last for them. I do want to see though now the two of them outside of their friend groups. I'm hoping we get an episode this season where we get sort of a or B plot with Mariner and Jennifer, so we can kind of see what their relationship is like. Because thus far, I feel like we've just had very small like teasers of it.
Like to go back to what you guys were saying about like what the arc is, the seasonal arc. Like, I feel like what they're really setting up, and this is completely shot in the dark kind of thing, is like in the season it seems like Mariner is really trying to play ball, and so the real flip would be like she doesn't play ball at the end in some very catastrophic way, right? Like, and probably have to do with the archaeology. Exactly. Like, so I really like that moment in that episode because like it was setting. I felt like it was setting up like, you can play along but you know who you are, in the same way thematically to like Tendi, and like, like you can only play the role for so long before you have to either integrate or or just flip and be what you're going to be. So I don't know if that relationship is long for the world, Jennifer, Jenny, and Mariner. And truth be told, I actually prefer Mariner a little more gunslinger roguish. Like her playing house, seems like it's holding her back from what I want. Whereas Boimler
which is chaos.
Whereas Boimler being bold, really, I think like he had very little in this episode, and I go like, oh, like I still felt like it was, what's the word I want to use? It was like you could see the storyline, like even as we don't cut too much of the Boimler, that he was having a good time, and he's really doing it. And at the end when he goes, oh well, Quark Bucks, yeah, I'll take that instead. He's still Boimler.
Yes,
he's still Boimler. So like anyway,
I need him to have a date though. Like I'm
Boimler?
tired of everybody's talking about.
Well,
how
I was like,
he
Choopy just said, "Hey, Pod,
Yeah.
Boimler's officially sexy." And between the premiere episode where all the farmers' daughters wanted to get with Boimler, and this ep with all of Jenny's friends are super into Boimler, and then we've got this table full of women who predominantly were there because he had a giant pile of money in front of him, but like still people, I like that he got like more like the undressing and like the hair slicked back,
absolutely. But one of my favorite jokes about Boimler was like when the girls came to Mariner, and she goes about Boimler, goes, I know he's not aging backwards, it's just a vitamin deficiency. I was going like, it's such a good, because like there was that episode in Next Generation where like the guy was aging backwards because he took some pills, and so like even that throwaway line, it was referential to something in the canon. I was like, oh, this is such a good show. It's so parfait, like Clyde.
So many layers of parfait.
Hey, don't knock it. Listen, I love a good parfait. Okay, I'm just saying. So that's, I love it. You can call me a parfait. Great, I had one this morning. You didn't know that, but I had one this morning.
My like weird theory is that they're having to set up the fact that Boimler is at least semi-attractive, because eventually when we get the live action version of Mariner and Boimler on the crossover, like Jack Quaid's a pretty good looking kid, so it's like he can't, it'd be hard to make him super uggo.
True. Facts.
There was a lot of laugh out loud lines for me in this particular episode, and Michael L. pulled out one of my favorites, which was, everything I learned about Orions was from the Hollow novels, the bad ones, the ones with boobs on the cover.
That was hilarious.
That one was really great.
You're right. There's so many moments of dialogue in this episode that is just kind of like, you almost want to go back because you were laughing so hard you missed things that were actually funnier than what you were laughing at.
Yeah, like it's like the things that they throw away are still gold. That's what I really like about this episode.
There was another moment that I thought was really a fun kind of through in the episode is Kira and Shax, who know each other from the war, and kind of their back and forth about who owes who their lives, and them arguing about it. I was like, this is so perfect to their personalities, to have them not be like, oh no you. It's like they're like, no, I avenged you and you avenged me. Like,
yeah, no. It's that Bajoran humility, that's all it is.
Yeah, I think it was nice to see, like, we look at Kira as such a strong character throughout DS9, This felt a little bit different. Like this was, I don't know if it told me more about her or more about Shax. But their relationship of this almost brother sisterly kind of sibling quality was really nice to see, right? And I really did enjoy it. Like I think it did make me like Shax more. I think if I'm being honest, Shaq's character may have come the furthest from like episode 1, right?
He's had
like
to die and become a whole new
I
person.
know.
He did. He really did. It's a true rebirth. But it's just I think we see him as at every turn kind of warm and endearing and mentoring, and it's fascinating to see the development of that character in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And weirdly lover as well. Like we see a lot of sides of Shax, maybe some that I don't need to see.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of sides of Shax.
A lot of sides of Shax.
I was going to say we also saw just a glimmer of Tahana at the bar where she's like drinking, like
exactly.
licking the drink out of. Cracked me up, these small details. The other thing I would say the other major plot point we haven't discussed yet is the Karema and Quark, who in an attempt to negotiate, Captain Freeman brings them to Quark to show them like, look, you can make money here. Yay, capitalism. It can happen in the Alpha Quadrant for you. But they find out that he's been using some of their technology, takes him on board, and chaos ensues. And that's where we get our badass Tendi moment. My biggest question, though, is at the end, in order to keep Quark from going to their jail, they negotiate a 76% share of his profits, which to me sounds way too high for a Quark negotiation.
Way too high.
I don't know. Not to disagree, but I remember the episode where where we met the I always call them the Karma, but the Karema, the first time, and they're pretty savvy businessmen. They're the Ferengi of the Gamma Quadrant, right?
All right.
And so it's and Quark had a really interesting relationship. Like they caught Quark and they were going to suspend Quark, and and Quark was like giving up all this like concession in order to basically try to not have them cancel the contracts and stuff like that. So they're pretty shrewd, So and it it's still like he's still getting like nearly 30%. He's not gonna be poor. It's more.
He's gonna be fine.
Poorer.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got what is it, like 31 of those?
21.
But here's the thing about Quark, which I love.
A lot.
And that is like Quark is actually a better character poor. His all of these Deep Space Nine, he's trying to make money. He's never getting it, right? He's gonna be a Nagus. No, he isn't. His brother's gonna be a Nagus. All these things. He's always trying, and I always love that striving in him.
Mm-hmm.
So to have him make it is probably not the best character development. To have him lose it, much better.
True, in the long run of things, if they're going to come back. I still want to know more. I did like Mariner and Quark's exchange kind of at the end. We get that moment in the bar. And there's the reference to the time Quark did the holo using Kira. And there was some accidents there. And there's a little bit of a blackmail in order to get her bar tab cleared out. I still, I'd love to know more about Mariner's time on Deep Space Nine. I think it would be really fun.
I mean, I want to know more about Mariner's time everywhere, right? Yeah. I feel like I almost need
like a flashback episode.
Well, not even a flashback episode. It's there's certain series where you would have the episode and then there'd be like this webisode that happens in between the episode. I feel like
a short trek, maybe
a short trek. I feel like I need a short trek that follows almost every episode that tells me the backstory of Mariner and whatever she was referencing. Right.
like HBO has this show called Pennyworth, which is basically Alfred's story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like a series that like it's just Mariner, the young days, like like
I mean,
I wouldn't
that
be
would
mad at
work.
it.
A prequel, a Lower Decks prequel that's all about Mariner.
yeah, I think I'd watch it, but like
Do we want live action or animated?
yes, and
Great.
I'm live action. I'll go live action.
Yeah, I'd love to see Tawny Newsome. I'm excited for this live action crossover. I cannot wait. I know we have so much time we have to wait for it, but I'm excited. Keegan brings up a good point. Quark's franchises are still around at $23.99 and Picard, so the deal didn't knock him out of business. So that is true.
nice. That's some deep research. I love that.
I'm trying to think if there's any. I had a couple of Easter eggs references, fun facts, but I think I got all of them except for the Alpha Quadrant alcohol gifts were Vulcan Port, Aldebaran whiskey, Romulan ale, Galarian milk, Ryzian Cabernet, and Andorian kegs. So lots and lots of stuff. Let's see. Oh, other things. Michael Cork is charging money for taking selfies with station tourists and Morn.
Yes,
there was
absolutely.
Morn.
Yes, Morn's always there.
Still at the bar. Lots of good stuff. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about this particular episode? I have heard that this next episode, 307, is Tawny Newsome's favorite of the season. So I'm excited to see
interesting
what happens.
Exciting.
I got nothing. I'm just like I'm excited for this season still. Like I'm sad there are only 4 more episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But the Prodigy's going to start up, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
We'll have the last episode of Lower Decks will be the same day as the first episode of Prodigy. So
I think it's October 27th. I think that's what I saw.
Yeah, a bounty of Trek riches for us to be had.
What a pirate impression! Great Kenzie there. Yeah. Arr, arr,
Let me cover my eye and get a parrot on my shoulder. All right, guys. Well, I think that is it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at the live stream, or if you're listening to us later in the pod stream, thank you so much. You can find us live on YouTube every Thursday talking about Trek, and we'll continue to cover Lower Decks for the next few weeks. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple as well as Spotify, and you can find links to all of that and more at StarTrekPod.co as well as to our Patreon. Clyde, where can listeners find us on the internet?
They can find us at StarTrekPod.co on Twitter, on Instagram, you name it. You can find us there, right?
Yep.
Star Trek Pod.
At Star Trek Pod. Correct. Thanks for joining us again. Paul, thanks for joining us. It was lovely to have you.
Hopefully you don't get shut down because of me.
No,
I am
tame.
This has been great. Hopefully we would love to have you back next week and continuing to cover Lower Decks. Until then, thank you all, everybody. Live long and prosper. Bye.
Bye.